You're not thinking that.
I sure am, boy.
Ever heard of Evel Knievel?
I've never done that before.
Oh, neither have I, actually.
Hello?
Oh, hey, Aaron, is that you?
Carlin, are you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine. I just need to keep
What's
it
going
down.
on?
I just need to keep it down.
Keep it down for what?
I just hold on. No, go ahead. I just need to keep it down. You can talk as loud as you want. I just need to keep it down.
Are you in a safe place?
Why
Why are you typing so loud?
Yeah. Just go ahead and start. I just gotta take care of some stuff.
Are you writing a letter? Are you writing a note? Do I need to call the cops?
Will that be 4 units? 4 units. 4 units. Yeah. No, you don't need to call. Don't call the cops. Don't call the cops.
Are you at work? Is this a new job?
Yeah, I got a new job. You know,
Wait, what?
Things just, you know how things have been.
You haven't told me this yet? I know we only talk once a month when we do our recording, but so you got a new job.
You know how things have been. You know, like the podcast, we've wrapped up.
I know we didn't hit our 6 million listeners.
We didn't hit our 6 million listeners. We wrapped up all of the James Bond films. Yeah, I'm yeah, nothing's going on. Yeah, I'm trying to run the inventory report. Yeah.
Inventory for what?
Sorry. So, you know, we finished up all the Bond movies. You know, Alabama Dog,
Yeah.
He's bailed. It's like,
wow. It's like, what are we doing? I mean, we were trying to keep it together as long as we could.
And you know, there's another thing that just kind of happened. It just sort of all worked out. You know, we've talked about Peppy since our first show. You know?
Yeah, Peppy Coffee. It's like our lifeblood.
And I thought, you know, for this episode, wouldn't it be great? Because it is, we've decided we're going to make this our promised Sheriff Pepper.
Nobody cuts and runs on Sheriff J.W. Pepper. Sheriff Pepper.
Episode. Maybe we could talk about Peppy as well. And it'll be our Pepisode, right?
Our Sheriff Pepisode?
Right.
Yes.
And so I thought, you know, we thought maybe Alabama Dog was hanging out with Peppy. So I reached out to Peppy to see if they could help us find Alabama Dog, and maybe if they want to come on the podcast. And, you know, just one thing led to another, and now I'm working at Peppy.
You're working at Peppy.
Yeah,
So what does that mean?
I'm an inventory manager.
You're an inventory manager.
I'm back in the warehouse, and I'm managing inventory.
Who are you managing? Because it sounds like somebody's giving you orders.
Oh, well, yeah, I've got a boss. You know, Mr. Peppy himself is my boss.
Mr. Peppy himself. Well, okay, you have to stop right there and describe who this Mr. Peppy character is. So there's a Mr. Peppy. Is he French? Does he... Oh, Peppy. Ooh, drinking my Peppy. Is his office like a French cafe?
Sorry.
Is there a strict no laughing rule?
No. For us, for our show, there's a strict no laughing rule. We don't break character.
Okay. So all right. So you're in inventory. So why are you doing the podcast now? I mean, we can talk later. We can record later.
Because I know we never promised it. But we're back. We're finding ourselves back in that same situation again, where we want a show to go out on the 007th of the month.
Yeah.
And so it's just this. It's now or never. It's now. Oh, hold on.
We're guys. Man, that is the loudest keyboard I've ever heard in my life. So wait, you're doing inventory. Is this a warehouse? Because it sounds pretty quiet.
Well, I mean, it's late at night. It's the Sunday night shift.
But you're the manager. You're the manager of like the Sunday night show.
I may be overselling it. I'm like the manager when I'm really like the only guy here who's.
Is this like an entry level position?
Yeah, it's kind of entry level.
Did they not listen to our podcast? Did they not know that we're super fans of Peppy Coffee?
I don't think they had never heard of us.
They had never heard of us. We have been tweeting and Facebook sharing and doing podcasts nonstop about Peppy Coffee, and they never heard one thing from Pod James Pod podcast.
Well, they didn't seem to really remember. Like I brought it up because I thought, well, maybe I'll get into marketing. I'll be Peppy marketing, but did we just get lost in the fold? I mean, are there a lot of podcasts out there doing a bunch of free publicity for Peppy Coffee? I mean, you're the mastermind. Well, I mean, you know how popular Peppy is. I mean, they're getting thousands and thousands of likes and comments, and people mentioning them on Facebook and Twitter. Yeah. I mean, they're not going to be able to pick us out of that gigantic crowd. Yeah. Ever since their rebrand, they've kind of they've gotten some traction online. And there's kind of this cult following. I mean, let's be honest. We were there first. Yeah, that's going to be 6 pallets to Dothan. So the truck going to Dothan needs those 6 pallets over there. Yeah, get the jack, and put it over on that. Yeah, over there and put it in that truck. It'll go out tomorrow to Dothan.
Dothan. I assume you're talking about Dothan, Alabama. Isn't that the headquarters of Peppy Coffee? So you're not in Dothan. You're in Tallahassee still.
Well, I drive up to Bainbridge, Georgia.
So do you get to drive the Peppy truck?
Oh, I don't get to drive the Peppy
truck.
I go up to the Bainbridge, Georgia isn't that far from Tallahassee. So I'm in the Bainbridge warehouse, and then there's the Alabama warehouse.
Have you ever gotten to drive a Peppy truck?
No, I haven't.
But you're like an inventory manager. Don't you like put the inventory in the truck?
I said manager, but I mean, it's not really a managerial position.
I'm just trying to wrap my head around the fact that you are now working at Peppy Coffee. Does this mean like their break room is like heaven? Like what is their break room situation at Peppy Coffee?
It's great, but I got a lot of work to do and I don't get to take a break.
You aren't allowed a break.
Well, I mean, I am allowed a break, but it's like I gotta be real quick, and I don't really get to spend a whole lot of time.
Well, you don't need a whole lot of time. You just need one drop of Peppy Coffee, and that'll last you 24
That's true.
hours. I mean, how long does it take you to drink one drop?
I don't know, man. It's just, you know how they say like never let your hobby become your job. It's just like I don't even really like Peppy anymore.
What? I'm sorry, Carlin, do you want to keep doing the podcast? Because you just said you don't like Peppy anymore, and I feel like
it's just like that's all there is. Like when you're out and about and like you can't have it. It's not there. It's like sorry, I'll keep it. Like when you go to when you go out and you're like, oh, everywhere it's Starbucks or everywhere it's Dunkin' Donuts or it's like all that kind of coffee and like there's not Peppy available, then suddenly that's all you want. But then when you're surrounded by it, it's like big deal. It's like I'm tired of it now because it's all that there is around here.
I don't know how I feel about this because I tried to start a podcast last year with Scott during my construction podcast, and he didn't like Peppy. So I said, no, not so much. I don't really want to do podcasts with you. And now you're telling me you don't like Peppy. And I know we go back a long way. We have a lot of history.
We do have a lot of history. We've never told that story. How we met.
I don't know what to do about how we met.
Yeah, we never told that story, have we?
Of how we met. Well, okay. So I want to hear your side of the story.
Well, you tell your side, and then I'll jump in and correct you as you tell it. I mean, it's better if you tell it because I don't want to talk too much and get caught on the phone with you. So you start.
Well, I was driving. This is back when
we were in the war. We were in the war together. Hey,
So
do you still want to get the Peppy gum?
I mean, I don't want to make more work for you. So why don't you just keep it canceled for now?
Okay.
Because I'm still going through that financial crisis that you're supposed to be helping me out with.
Okay.
Well, I don't know if you can help me out anymore because it sounds like you're pretty desperate. I mean, you took a new job without me telling. I mean, does this mean you're giving up on Pod James Pod?
No, I don't even think I want to keep this job. Like I said, my love for Peppy is so diminished being around it. It's like it's not worth me staying here. It's not worth me being a part of it if I'm going to hate it, right?
I mean, I guess is a perk of the job you
Percolating.
Is a perk of the job you trying to find Alabama Dog? Like, do you feel like you are? I don't know.
I don't think he's here. They've never heard of him.
Well, I mean, he may be there. They may just call him by a different name.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
I don't think he's around.
Well,
Neither office.
He would be in Alabama.
I know.
But it sounds like you haven't had a chance to drive there. But I mean,
I haven't gone there, but I'm on the phone with them over there all the time. You know.
Well, have you heard any barking?
No, I haven't.
No barking whatsoever when you talk to the Dothan office.
No, none.
Well, it sounds like you're working in the wrong office. You're working in the Bainbridge, Georgia office.
Those, can you label those as going to Hoover?
Hoover?
Hoover, Alabama.
Well, get on that truck. Go to Alabama.
You think I should get on that truck? I should sneak on that truck?
Get on that truck right now.
Not right now. It's not going. I will sit on that. If I get on the truck right now, then I won't be able to finish this episode of the podcast.
Why? Take your laptop. Are you on a laptop?
All right.
What kind of computer is this?
Okay. Hold on. Let me. Okay, hold on. Let me get in the truck.
Can you create a Wi-Fi like hotspot?
Hold on. Just keep telling the story about how we met. Give me a second to get on the truck. This is more complicated than you realize.
All right, so I was where was I? Tallahassee. I was at it's like this like small cafe, not cafe, because I was at this small like breakfast restaurant with some of my film school friends, as Carlin would say it, as Carlin would mock me. We're sitting around and we're
okay, I'm on the truck now.
Like Caribou Coffee, maybe it's Caribou Coffee. It was like a breakfast place.
I don't know. I don't think anyone cares about this story. Let's not tell the story anymore. I'm on the truck now, and I'm.
But it's such a great story.
Yeah, let's not tell the story. Let's just leave. Some things are better left to being a mystery. So they're probably gonna fire me, actually, but that's okay. I don't think I want this job anyway.
Wait. So you're in the truck? Did you tell anybody you're leaving? You're getting on the truck?
I'm on the truck. I'm back by the pallets with the Hoover with the coffee going to Hoover.
So you just snuck on? You didn't even tell the driver?
No, I'm just in the back, just sitting here in the back. Can you tell?
Is it refrigerated?
It's vacuum sealed. Oh, this is gonna be a problem.
Vacuum sealed? It can't be vacuum sealed.
No, you remember we talked about this before. The trucks, they're vacuum sealed because if the smell gets out, then everyone's going to follow the trucks.
Oh man, yeah.
This could
that would cause so many traffic.
This could be a problem.
Collisions. Well, are the doors locked?
No, I mean they're not locked yet.
Do you want to get out?
I better get out of the truck. Okay, so keep telling the story about how we met. Hold on, while I get out of the truck.
All right. So I'm sitting there with my friends. We're eating some breakfast, and I see we're decide that there's the coffee machines, and I go up and order a coffee, and I go over to pour it, and I see this guy over there, and he's got like 5 different cups. It's making like a little flight of coffee flavors, and I'm thinking this is a little strange. I've never seen this before.
I just took a quick.
I've seen flights of
of
beer.
I'm back.
And
okay.
So I see this guy, and he's starting the pour, just one drop. Like he's sitting there for 5 minutes.
Stop.
Each
No one cares.
flavor.
No one cares. No
Only
one
one
cares
drop
about
until
the
he
story of
stops.
how he met. Absolutely no one cares. I don't even know why I brought it up. It's okay. Don't worry about it.
Okay, so are you off the truck?
I'm
again?
off the truck. I'm back at my station.
Is Mr. Pepe? Is he over there? Can I talk to him? Can he?
No. They don't want to talk to us. I remember I asked if they want to be on their podcast.
They? Who's they?
I mean, the people who work at Pepe. I asked. I said, "Do you want to be on our podcast?" And they weren't interested.
But why? Why did you tell them the benefits? Did you tell them how many listeners we have?
Yeah, I mean, they thought that maybe their marketing was better spent on things that had more than 6-7 listeners.
Marketing better spent, but we're not asking money. We're just saying,
I asked for money. They said the only way they would give me money is if I got a job. So I said, well, I'll try that then.
So why did you pick this job? Like I guess why did they decide you were qualified for inventory manager or faux manager?
Well, that was the only opening they had, and I kind of begged and cried, and they felt sorry for me, and they let me. It's a trial. I mean, they're just letting me see how I do, but I don't think I'm going to keep the job. Like I said, I'm not. It's just not for me, you know? It's not for me. I'm not really, I'm not cut out for. I'm kind of unemployable if you think about it, right?
Right, because you're overqualified for just about anything.
Right. I mean, if you look back at our history, I mean, it's sort of like,
you're an expert.
Why am I here? Why is me? Why am me doing this?
Why am me doing this? Mm-hmm. I feel like you should just leave right now. You should just quit and go home.
Yeah,
and
I will. I'm going to quit. I'm going to quit, and let's finish our episode, and then I'm going to quit. What are we supposed to talk about? Other than James Bond.
Well, we talk about nothing but James Bond.
I understand that.
So we're clear. But we're talking about this is the Sheriff Pepisode.
Yes.
And we can talk about Sheriff all day, all night. Really, we could do that. We talk about nothing but Sheriff Pepper, my ex dodgeball member. I want to talk about our podcast. I want to talk about Pod James Pod. And listeners are probably thinking, man, this is just baloney. These guys aren't talking about a Bond movie. Why am I listening to this Bond podcast?
But it's because they're missing it. There's a subtlety there. We are talking about James Bond. The point is
that Pod James Pod will be a future sort of Bond movie. So in a sense, we are like this. We're letting them into like the backstage VIP look at a future Bond franchise film.
We're pulling back. Some people would say pulling back the curtains, but you're pulling back the gun barrel.
That's a great way to put it. I would love to talk about our podcast. I mean, this is a great time. We're kind of at this little like existential crisis right now. It's like, what are we? What are we gonna do?
Let's talk about our podcast.
We're out of Bond films.
We've done. This is 00.
I don't even know.
This is 0028.
28.
So we've done before this episode. If you don't count like the 007 Flash episode, and if you don't count 13 3 times, we've done 20. This is 28. We've done 28 episodes, and man, let's just we've done a lot. We started with GoldenEye. That was a great one to start with.
Yeah, it was great.
We talked about Pierce Brosnan and his first movie, and it was a good jumping on point for Bond and
for both of us.
And it just became a good jumping on point for us doing the show, and then from there we talked about Roger Moore and then Sean Connery's first movies after that, and just kept on going. And we went through some turbulent times. That's true. We had some difficulties. There were feelings that you had that were wrong.
Listen, we try not to look in the past. We always are trying to look forward.
We are.
But when we look at Quantum of Solace, there are some not so good feelings.
You made some mistakes. That's okay. I've moved past that.
I voiced the correct opinions and you voiced the incorrect opinions. And then we split up, did our
To quote Willy Wonka,
individual episodes.
strike that, reverse it.
And we recorded our individual episodes, and I think the voters let us know whose episode was the best.
Bama
And
Dog.
I'm,
Bama
s-
Dog.
I'm so happy that you after our little truffle there that you came up to Nebraska, and we sort of had a reunion makeup episode where we both won 007 Seen It
007. Seen it.
because we're both experts. And then from there on out, it's kind of been like a rebuilding of our relationship. And I'm right now, I think we're kind of at a standstill.
We're out of all movies. I mean, until the Bond producers put together another movie, and maybe Daniel Craig's a part of that, and maybe it's not. Maybe it's, there's all kinds of rumors, and we don't get into rumors. We don't talk about the rumors, but
We don't name names.
There's speculation and stuff, and whatever. I think we both have proven that we're above all that. That's not what we're about. We don't care. We just want a good movie. We want a movie that comes out and that we put in our top tier. That's what we want. We want a top tier movie.
We always want a top tier movie. Every time we're putting in our DVD, or in your case, Blu-ray. We want a top tier James Bond film, and we put a lot of movies in our top tier, a lot of movies in our middle tier, and for me, a lot of movies in my bottom tier,
Yeah.
my lower tier.
But like, it's gonna be a while. It's gonna take some time. I mean, these things don't come out once a month. They make these movies every 2, 3, sometimes 4 years.
Listen, I just don't understand why the producers of James Bond films can't listen to fans like us and do the Lord of the Rings, Hobbit route and make 3 at once, so they can come out every single year. I mean, doesn't that make sense?
That'd be great.
Yeah. Just nonstop, every single year you get a new James Bond movie. Because the fans are demanding it. And Daniel Craig may want to slit his wrists, but you know what?
If you think about it, I mean, early on they were coming out every year or two. I think the first 4 were almost like one right after another year.
But both Sheriff Pepper movies came out 1 year apart.
Right.
Live and Let Die and The Man with the Golden Gun, 1 year apart. Why can't that happen nowadays?
Yeah, and like that's essentially the way the whole Star Wars franchise is going to start being. There's going to be a Star Wars movie every year. And the whole Marvel franchise, there's 2 or 3
Forget
every
about
year.
the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yeah,
you know what
yeah.
people care about? The James Bond universe. That's been around forever.
Right.
If that's instant moneymaker.
And you might think we're kidding around, but I'm really not kidding around. I think if you went to this approach where you had a movie coming out more often, then there wouldn't be the pressure of. I don't think there'd be the pressure of topping the previous thing to such extents and extremes to where making another movie is just like another episode of a TV show on a larger scale. It's just like there's a level, there's a caliber and a range that we're looking for here, and it's not like, oh, we got to really top the last one because it's been 4 years and we have to really make sure as we knock their socks off.
Well, think about all the other stories and other characters that could be explored in the James Bond universe. Like, okay, so Spectre, we talked about how M was such a large part in Spectre. I feel like, I want to see a movie about M. I want to see maybe a prequel about Mallory. Stuff like that. Interesting stuff. And I know you are dying for that Jinx movie.
Right.
You've been looking forward to that Jinx movie ever since 2003 or whenever.
Well, and I think
maybe that can happen.
And I think to tie into our topic is, what about a Sheriff Pepper movie?
Nobody cuts and runs on Sheriff J.W. Pepper.
A Sheriff Pepper movie. He's still alive. Clifton James is alive and well and still making movies. I mean,
you could do
the guy is due.
Well, you could do a style where like he shows up at the beginning, he bookends it, like he's at the beginning and maybe he shows up in the middle and at the end and he's telling the story of a young Sheriff Pepper, and it could be like, essentially, think about it this way. It could be like Die Hard, but instead of John McClane, it's Sheriff Pepper.
Oh my gosh. Who would we get to play a young modern day Sheriff Pepper?
Oh, I got the name for you.
I have an idea. I want to hear your idea.
What's that kid? Lucas Black? Is that his name?
Lucas Black.
The kid from Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift.
Oh yeah.
Is that his name? Lucas Black? I think it is.
Yeah. Yeah, from Tokyo Drift. Yeah, I think of when I think of him, I think of I think of him in Jarhead. Also a Sam Mendes film. I'm trying to tie it in.
No,
So
because
Sam-
that's all we
Sam-
do is talk about
yeah.
James Bond.
It's because Sam Mendes needs to come back for another James Bond / Sheriff Pepper film. Direct Lucas Black.
Yeah.
That's a great choice. I mean, he's got the southern drawl.
Right, he's in the
He's from
NCIS.
Alabama.
Well, he's in the NCIS TV show, the New Orleans one.
Oh man, so he's already into like the Cajun culture.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So Lucas Black is a young Sheriff Pepper. And so he's not sheriff at the time.
Well, yeah, he's not sheriff yet.
It's how
he's
he
like
becomes a sheriff.
He maybe deputy, maybe
Or of course, yeah, deputy. Or he's like he's in training. He's in sheriff school.
he's in sheriff school. Okay. And I feel like I feel like to start it off, the first movie with Sheriff Pepper needs to be like him being recruited. Like he sees a sheriff drive by and he's like, "Whoo, hi Nelly, that's what I want to do, Mama." And that's like the start of the movie.
Well, there's got to be some because this is the way everything goes now. Everything's got to there's going to be some sort of childhood tragedy.
Oh yeah, of course.
And so something happens to him when he's really young. And
So what would happen to Sheriff Pepper for him to turn into who he is as an older man? I guess where are we starting off with since it's all a flashback, starting with Clifton James as the elderly Sheriff Pepper, assumably retired. Well, I don't know. Would Sheriff Pepper ever retire?
well, they would still call him sheriff, but he would be retired.
Would he be like Mayor Pepper?
No, I don't see Sheriff Pepper ever doing anything besides once he's a sheriff, he never does anything else. He's like a sheriff, and then he
once a sheriff, he's a
retires. But then he's still they still refer to him, when they see him out in the street and he's getting his groceries, they're just like, "Oh, hey, morning, sheriff."
Hey,
and
sheriff.
they still always call him sheriff, even though he's no longer
Yep.
the active sheriff.
No, that makes sense. Okay.
And so we start off with him, and he's telling the story. And so I think then we jump to a really early age, and he's talking about his mama.
Mm-hmm. His
mama, and so we jump to a slightly older age, and he loved his mama, and if only a sheriff had been nearby when some hooligans came to their
thugs,
came and ransacked their farm and wound up killing his mama. If the sheriff had been not a drunk, the sheriff that was in their town had not
his farm. I feel like they're living in the bayou.
Okay, all right.
I feel like they'd be fishing.
Okay.
Like his mama died on a fishing trip.
And if the sheriff had been more responsible, maybe he would have been. He was supposed to have been making his rounds, and he would have probably caught these guys, but he wasn't. And so ever since then, Sheriff Pepper sees what he needs to become, so that he can make sure this never happens to somebody else.
So he sees how important it is to someone like him that the criminals come to justice, and he always wants. He'll do whatever it takes, and I think it's important in the first few, maybe maybe the first act of the film, that we get those racist undertones maybe passed on to him from his mama.
I think so. I think we have an opportunity here to tell a story about somebody who lives in a way that is not acceptable. It shouldn't have been acceptable then, but it certainly isn't now. Yeah. And how today, modern day at this point it would be like 2016 Sheriff Pepper as he's telling his story. What does he learn from his life and his experiences that he looks back on and he's a little bit ashamed. Maybe he's a lot ashamed of how he was and how maybe he wasn't as good of a person as he thought he was.
Yeah.
He had a lot of the right reasons, but he still made a lot of the wrong decisions.
There's got to be a sidekick to this. I mean, I think
we start
like
off
a childhood friend.
We start off with him. He needs a mentor. He needs, his mama dies, and so somebody else has to be there to be a mentor to him, or maybe once he gets into to school, to the sheriff academy. Is there such thing as a sheriff academy? Why not? It's our story, sure.
Yeah, there is now.
The
Louisiana Sheriff Academy.
Absolutely, the Louisiana Sheriff Academy. He gets in there, and there's somebody there who's training him, and there's that
Pepe?
mentor. Sure,
Mr.
we can
Pepe?
name him. Maybe we can name him Peppy after my employer. That's fine.
I just want Mr. Pepe to be down with Sheriff Pepper, eating some beignets, trying to give him some advice.
And you can barely understand him.
Yeah, saying like, I imagine like the old cop in like Hot Fuzz, where you can't understand a word he's saying, but Sheriff Pepper's just like nodding his head, like these are wise words, Mr. Pepe. These are wise words. But really, Mr. Pepe's trying to tell him like, you can't say things like that. Well, he's trying to educate him.
So we get those sorts of we get that sort of background on the character, but then I think we drop him into a Die Hard situation. It's something on a Die Hard level. It doesn't have to be the Nakatomi Tower, it doesn't have to be the whatever, the airport, but something like that where there's like the next part of the story is this, it only takes place over the course of an evening or a very finite period of time. And and I like your idea of there's a sidekick or another person in the Louisiana Sheriff Academy that he's with, and the two of them have to take on this unexpected situation, and they do so successfully, and so then thus is the story that's told of a young Sheriff Pepper, and then we wrap it up. We close it out with older Sheriff Pepper concluding the story, passing on this wisdom. Roll credits, post-credit sequence. I love this. Post-credit sequence. We go back to young Pepper.
Yeah.
Encounters a young James Bond.
Oh, yeah. I was almost thinking...
Because James Bond was at his James Bond Jr. school, and they cross paths. They go on a field trip together. They go on a field trip, and both schools go to a field trip.
Sheriff Pepper,
the Louisiana Sheriff Academy,
Sheriff Academy,
and in James Bond Jr.'s school, they wind up going and they meet at like some museum or something.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. I think Sheriff Pepper seeing somebody like who is sophisticated, like a James Bond, will turn him off and like think like who's this little hootenilly or whatever word he would say.
Whippersnapper.
And whippersnapper. That's just that's that foreshadowing of like what's to come with Sheriff Pepper's. And I let's go back to Sheriff Pepper's little sidekick. I think it's important, and maybe this is obvious. I may just be saying the obvious, but I think the sidekick is a character who is like in all reality extremely talented and actually saves the day and has all the is a master fighter and shooter and all this stuff. Mm-hmm. But Sheriff Pepper gets all the glory and ends up getting promoted.
Yeah, I don't. That's far fetched. I don't like that idea. I see what you're trying to do. I see what you're saying. I see what you're trying to, like, oh, I'm the sidekick and I'm the better one on the show, and Carlin's always getting the glory. But I mean, that's not really the reality. So I know.
That's not what I was saying. That's not what I was trying to say at all.
It kind of is. You weren't really
that
subtle.
You out.
You weren't really
I'm
that
trying to
subtle.
help you out. I'm trying to get you on the truck. I'm trying to get you to go to Alabama and do something with your life.
You almost got me killed.
But then you jumped off the truck. You weren't even willing to jump in and try something new in your life other than like you're trying to work at Pepi, but that you already know Pepi. What else is there to know about Pepi?
We both. I think we both are feeling directionless right now. I think
We're
that's
lost.
what you're getting.
We're absolutely
We
lost.
don't
We're
have Alabama
aimless.
Dog. We don't have movies to talk about, and I don't know what we do. I don't know what we do. But I gotta tell you, maybe I'm misspeaking here. I'm overstepping my bounds here. But if I were to look back at this show that we've done,
Yeah.
the 28 episodes now that we've done, and if I were to think, okay, is this in my top tier, middle tier, or bottom tier of life? This is my top tier, man. This is it. I think this is what I was born to do, and I don't want this podcast. And even though I think we could say we're done, we've done it. We've done a successful show. We're closing up shop. We're not going to do this show anymore, and there's many out there are saying they're calling for that.
There's something to be said about walking away while on top.
Right. I don't want to. I don't want to stop. I don't know how you feel.
Listen, I hear you, and this podcast we've had a really good run. In fact, I wrote down a little list of my top 10 James Pod moments.
Oh.
I was just scribbling them down. I was
okay, great. Let's hear 'em.
I gotta think. I'm just thinking through my favorite pastimes.
Okay.
Um,
Do you want me to do a little drum roll or something, or?
oh, with the keyboard.
Uh-huh.
Okay. My number 10.
I'm not going to keep doing this.
Good. My number 10 favorite James Pod moment. My Renard poetry. I love writing my Renard poetry.
That is 10? Oh,
poetry.
wow. I
That's
can't wait to hear what
10.
the rest of them are. Okay.
Number 9 was your Spectre teaser poster post. If you didn't catch it, you can go on our blog, podjamespod.tumblr.com, and Carlin wrote. He explained and dissected and tore apart the Spectre teaser poster.
Oh, that's what we do, because we look at everything James Bond related. We tear it apart. We just suck out the marrow of it, and we spit it back out and say, here, that's what it is. That's what you should think.
Yeah. Number 8, Lisa Prentice responded to your email and to our dodgeball letter.
It's a great number 8.
Lisa Prentice from the National Dodgeball Association.
Yeah.
We asked her if indeed if indeed Aston Martins could be allowed to play dodgeball, and she said, I forget what she said. It doesn't matter. She was
whatever. In the end, it wound up working out in your benefit. So of course you're gonna like it. But
yeah, great. Number 8, number 7 was our 0013 individual episodes, and in particular our most critically acclaimed episode ever, which was 0013B, Bama Dogs episode.
The only episode to have earn the explicit content tag.
Yeah, you're right. It is definitely targeted toward an adult listener demographic. Number 6 was us playing Seen It together.
007. Seen it.
You know, I really love playing. You coming up here and playing Seen It together. It was a lot of fun.
That was great, and I would rank that higher because I won, and it proved that I was the.
I mean, we both won, but
in that I won, we
not,
both won. Yes.
Number 5, you got to go to a James Bond themed party. Take pictures with people dressed as James Bond characters.
Yeah, that was fantastic.
And I enjoyed seeing all those photos on the Inst and the Twitter sphere, and that was a lot of fun. I don't even know what number I'm on.
I think you're on 4 now.
Oh, 4 was when I got to attend the potties.
The potties. Mm-hmm.
Number 4 is I got to attend the potties. I got to see my cat Toby win the lifetime achievement potty.
Yeah.
Great time. Number 3, when here in the Nebraska headquarters just a few months ago, Scott yelled at Danny to tilt down. And number two, my number two favorite moment was the fact that Began Strip's Twitter account responded to James Pod and to Bama Dog's Twitter account and said that they listened to our episode.
Yeah, that was fantastic. Can I guess what the number one is?
Sure.
Can I guess? So my guess for number one is when I got to the opportunity to share with you and the listeners a clip of the mastermind group that I was a part of, one of the calls that I was on.
That is not my number one, but that could be number one for in on your list.
Yeah, I think that's number 1 through 10 on my list, actually.
But this list, the one that matters, number one is the fact that we actually got a QK to go on a different podcast. The QK appeared on different podcasts, and it's just that whole scenario was unbelievable, and it's still I don't know how that happened.
I'm
why
still
it happened.
when that gets brought up, I'm still enraged about that. I'm still just I am.
Of course you are.
I'm livid that she would ever go on another podcast and say the things she did about me on that show.
So much has changed because of her going on that podcast. It's number one, not because it may be my favorite, but because it's one of the most altering things that happened to our podcast.
Yeah. Honorable mention, I would say, is the moment we realized that there are high schoolers out there making movies of our podcasts.
Yeah.
That's one honorable mention.
Thank you, Danny.
And I think it's key. It's a key important moment is when we came up with the idea to do a couple of our segments that are very important. I would say. Obviously,
yes.
Dodgeball. It's a huge segment that we did, and it was a huge part of our show for so long. And I would say then the other one that's just. Huge, so big is what kind of sandwich would it be? I mean, it's
it was such a hit, just that one time, yeah, great segment. Personal favorite of mine was our Skyfall segment, or maybe my Skyfall segment. Skyfall, where every film was compared in some way to Skyfall, and that was great. I loved keeping track of the boat makeout scenes. I think that was an Aaron favorite.
It was a great idea. I think you called it out, but it was my idea to keep track of it.
I don't know.
I mean, if there's only some way to check. There's not, though. There's no way to check.
There's no way to go back and listen to previous episodes. We don't look in the past. We're looking ahead. But I'm gonna look in the past one more time. And another favorite moment of mine, and maybe you didn't like this because you were his boss at the time, was the Twitter takeovers by Kevin Hart.
Oh yeah,
I love when Kevin Hart took over our Twitter account.
That was great. I hope Kevin's doing all right. I hope he's doing all right.
Well, Kevin Hart, not the comedian, because of course he's doing all right. He's 18 movies coming out every year. But Kevin Hart, our janitor.
Right. Kevin Hart, the comedian, did not take over our Twitter account. Although that'd be awesome if he did. We should ask him if he wants to.
Well, I don't know if Kevin Hart, the comedian, could have come up with as good tweets or as helpful tweets, insightful tweets as Kevin Hart, our janitor.
You're right. You're right.
But who knows? I mean, we probably would have gotten like 18 million new followers if Kevin Hart took over. But who cares? We love our listeners. Mom, I love you. And I forget who our other 5 are.
Well, we've got you,
me,
me.
Yeah.
We've got
QK. No more.
QK doesn't. We've got Primetime Polly.
Primetime Polly.
We've got
Scott. Scott listens.
Scott listens. We've got Janice.
Well, of course, Janice.
We've got our friend Jimmy.
Jimmy.
Bizarro Jimmy.
Well, is it Jimmy or Bizarro Jimmy? Because that sounds like two very different people.
I think both. I think maybe Jimmy and Bizarro Jimmy listen.
Wow. We'll chalk that up. I'm gonna mark this down as a new listener. Okay. Okay. Anybody else? Does Mr. Pepe listen?
No,
Gosh dang it!
they don't.
How can they not listen?
Oh, and
Other-
I think you know who else listens, because I think they're the ones who gave us the 1-star rating on iTunes. The Bames Jonding folks.
We don't name names.
We don't name names except for the podcast. We do, in the case of podcasts we do like, we name them. So of course our good friends at the hashtag underscore age bond hashtag bondage bond underscore podcast. Those guys, we love them.
hashtag.
We love them,
That's all.
and I think it's safe to say.
Do you think they listen? Should we add them to the listeners?
I think they listen because I think they're you know, because they want to they're doing a James Bond podcast too, and so I think they're
trying
there catching the crumbs that fall from our table.
They're getting leftovers.
They're catching the crumbs, and then they're taking the crumbs that they caught, and that's what they're giving their listeners.
I mean, of course, it's our crumbs, so it's
our crumbs.
genius. It's genius.
I
but-
love it because that means our crumbs are getting out there.
Well, I love the recycle, and I don't like the waste food in any way. So
Yeah.
that's good.
Yeah.
That's good. Big Daddy Audio, listen. He left.
He did.
A great review. Great review. For
We've
us.
had some fun reviews, and everyone who left a review, including people who left us negative reviews. You know, you think you're the number one James Bond fan, but I think perhaps if you left us a negative review, you don't really get James Bond as much as you think you do, and perhaps you're not the number one James Bond fan because it's us. We are together the number one James Bond fan. I mean, here, think of it this way. Step back. This is the question we've never answered. Who is James Pod? We are. You and I are James Pod. So James Pod, you and me,
Yeah.
the entity James Pod is the number one James Bond fan. James Pod is us. We are James Pod. We are then the number one James Bond fan.
And then how in the world are the producers of the James Bond movies just not listening to us? How did we write a letter to Sam Mendes and have 0 of our requests fulfilled?
I can only assume that they're saving those ideas for, you know, they got the letter, and, you know, they were already far enough down the production road. They said, these ideas are great. Bond 25. So what do we do? I mean, we've talked a lot about the past in this episode, which isn't something we do.
We never talk about the past. We're looking forward, moving forward. I don't know.
Forward.
I don't know what we should do. There's no Bond movies. When we could talk about other James Bond, we could stick with the James Bond theme since we're already experts. But you know what? My philosophy in life is to, once you become an expert in something, we need to broaden our horizons and maybe try to be an expert in something else.
Perhaps it's that. Perhaps it's looking at other. Perhaps it's a lot of things. You know, there's a lot of things on the table. Let me just throw a couple suggestions out. You know, there's other movies like James Bond movies. You know, we talked before, and I don't remember if it actually made it into the show. I know we don't edit it, but I think this was edited out. The Triple X movies.
We never edit. We're honest. Honesty is our policy. First policy is here. And yes, I remember the Triple X conversation. The Triple X movies.
I mean, if you think about it, the first Triple X is essentially a James Bond film. Jason Bourne movies, Johnny English movies. There's all kinds of things, and all 3 of those things I just said, vastly different kinds of movies, and all have a very Bond kind of thing about them. We could still talk about James Bond and talk about these other movies.
The Mission Impossible movies.
Oh yeah.
I mean, Spectre and Rogue Nation pretty much had identical plots, and I mean, even this year we saw the movie Kingsman, which I feel like the whole entire movie was just a commentary on the direction of how James Bond movies have gone in the past decade, which I thought was really interesting.
So there's plenty of options there. We could continue we could do a whole episode where we're just naming those
This
movies.
could just be it could just turn into like a spy thriller podcast, is what you're saying. But we compare every single spy thriller movie to James Bond films.
We also have talked quite a bit about Christopher Nolan and his Batman films, And
Well, because the James Bond franchise obviously just steals everything
exactly,
from Nolan
exactly.
films.
So we could go back to the source. We could go look at the source of that river and talk about those movies. We could talk about other
Girl.
movies that star James Bond
Assistants?
actors. So
Oh, okay.
other movies that Pierce Brosnan was in, Mrs. Doubtfire,
Yeah, it's a great. Well, can we skip Roger Moore though?
The November Man. We could
November
talk about
Man's
ones
horrible
that
November Man's horrible movie.
that Dalton was in. November Man is not a great movie at all. That Dalton was in. Flash Gordon, Beautician and the Beast, Hot Fuzz. We could talk about ones that Sean Connery was in. Highlander, Zardoz, Entrapment, The
Last
Rock,
Crusade.
Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. There's so many options. I think we don't even have to make a decision right now. Here are the things. Here's the one decision we have to make.
Okay.
Are we going to keep doing this?
One week we could go with a different Sean Connery movie, and the next week we're going with the Triple X movie.
So are we doing it? Are we going to continue? Will there be a next episode? I mean, I want to hear it from you.
I think we should state right now, just like we stated in episode 001, that there are no guarantees.
Okay.
There are no guarantees. We've had an incredible run where we've posted all but 1 month on the 007th.
That's true.
For 28 straight episodes, and we've upheld our non-guarantee. But moving forward, that guarantee is dwindling.
I think
And
at the very least, if there are going to be more shows, we're not going to commit to a schedule. We're not going to necessarily be every month, and it may or may not be on the 007th. We're going to do it when we want to do it.
yeah, and we might take a couple months off, and then we might come back with like 3 killer episodes about Jason Bourne.
Yeah.
For example, because Jason Bourne's a killer, hence the killer episode.
Oh, that's good. Oh man, you're so clever.
There's a lot. I mean, we talked about Dr. Quinn, the medicine woman.
Yeah, we talked about doing a Dr. Quinn podcast. Absolutely.
Yeah, the Pottison woman.
I mean, you already mentioned the Last Crusade, but I think we named the pod Indiana is certainly a possibility, a podsibility.
We named the pod Indiana.
Okay, let me see here. Dear Mr. Peppy, I am writing to express my resignation from this position of inventory, quote, manager, end quote. It has been a wonderful 3 hours and 20 minutes. All the best.
Wait. You just started like
Carlin
today?
Trammell. Huh? Yeah, I just started today.
You didn't even give it 1 day.
I just started today.
And it makes me a little worried. How dedicated will you be to this podcast moving forward?
Oh, I'll be totally dedicated to it because here's the thing. Once I'm not around all this Peppy, I'll have my love of Peppy renewed, and that will help fuel my passion for the podcast. It's just being around all this Peppy. It's like,
that sounds kind of depressing, actually.
yeah.
So are we going to keep the name? Are we going to keep the name Pod James Pod Podcast if we're not talking about... Well, I mean, I assume we're going to try to tie in everything to James Bond somehow.
We'll do what we want. If we want to, we
I mean,
will.
honestly, we talk nothing about James Bond. Even when we're going to talk about Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman, it's going to be all about James Bond.
Or not.
Solitaire.
It's up to us. It's our podcast,
I know, but we've set the expectations are high. I don't want to just be on the downslope.
I know, but you know what this is? You know what this is? We just wrapped up Moonraker. We just wrapped up Die Another Day. We just wrapped up one of the big ones. And this is our let's take a reset. Let's get small.
Yeah.
Let's not have these big expectations. Let's take it down. Let's get
but
reasonable.
Let's not do the for your eyes only rat though.
Oh yeah, I won't be eating pistachios again. That's for sure.
I wouldn't mind revisiting some more James Bond Jr. episodes, honestly.
That's a possibility. We can do it. It's the open. The sky's the limit. Sky's the limit. I got to turn in this letter of resignation.
The sky falls the limit.
The sky falls the limit.
Skyfall.
And
there's a new Adele album. Who
well,
knows?
we could talk about that. That could be our show. We could talk about the new Adele album.
We could review the Adele album. That's nothing to do with James Bond.
We mean it has nothing to do with. It has everything to do with James Bond.
Do James Bond.
If we talk about it, it makes it about James Bond.
Do you think Sam Smith would be offended? I mean, considering he just came out with his song, and it's like, why are you guys still talking about Adele?
I think Sam Smith would cry.
I think Adele
but you know
released her
what?
album.
The writing's on the wall,
strategically.
Sam.
Writing's on the wall. I think Adele released her album strategically around the same time as Spectre, because people, they're putting two and two together. They're thinking,
oh, you know what?
That Spectre movie I just saw.
Oh,
it was good.
I just figured out where our Alabama dog is.
No.
He must be Adele's marketing person. That's
What?
genius. Think about it. You're right. That's genius. That's exactly the kind of thinking Alabama Dog had. Adele, release your album.
He wants all the publicity
Release.
taken away from Spectre.
Oh, that's exactly where he is. We figured it out. Well, there you go.
I'm not sure you have figured it out, but
Absolutely, I have. Alabama Dog, Adele, sound the same?
I guess there is a D in both of their names and an L.
Uh-huh.
I think you got something there. People are looking to us for direction, and we can really set the tone here about what our next episode will be. Is there like a big, well, I guess we can talk about it, but there's no guarantees what our next episode. I just know it'll be a monumental episode. Whatever we do, it's going to be...
Or don't do, it will be monumental.
Whatever we do or don't do, it's going to change the way you listen to podcasts, and change the way you think about James Bond.
That's true. That's true.
There's nothing to rate for this episode.
Well, there is. I already rated it. I already said this podcast is in my top tier.
You rated our whole podcast.
Our whole podcast, the James Pod podcast,
the movement,
the past 2+ years.
Yeah.
Of our lives, of
Upper
the
tier.
listeners' lives. This is top tier, man. Top tier.
Top tier. Do I get a rate it as well?
You please do.
Will this make the website?
Well, we can put it on the website. I mean, I mean, one of us knows how to do that, right?
I don't know. Do we still are we still able to pay our web bills?
Yeah, I think we can figure something out.
Yeah, top tier. There's no doubt in my mind. Boat makeout. I don't think anybody wants to see that.
I don't think. Yeah, we're not gonna do that. No boat makeout here.
So yeah, I think that's.
I mean, it's funny that you mentioned that because that does sort of tie into the story of how we met. But no one wants to hear that, so we're not going to tell that story. But yeah, it's funny.
Well, I was starting to tell that story.
I know, but anyways.
And then, anyways.
Aaron, this has been an experience, and I'm glad to have done it with you. I'm glad to have had Alabama Dog. So Alabama Dog, if you're listening, thanks for being a part of the show.
I'm glad to have done it with Alabama Dog for most of the episodes.
Yeah,
and I'm mildly pleased to have done it with you.
Okay, all right, fair enough.
And I love James Bond movies.
Me too.
And I this 2+ years doing the James Bond movies has been a blast.
All right. Well, how about this? How about a toast a little. We'll do a podcast
Yeah,
toast, and I
with
got some Peppy here. Yep. All right.
Are you sure you're okay? Are you up to this?
I'll choke it down. All right, Aaron.
All right.
To,
Cheers.
28 episodes.
Man.
All right. Well, bye.
All right. Bye.
10 fingers on the fender. Legs apart. I'm sure this ain't exactly your debut with this sort of thing. You picked the wrong parish to haul ass through, boy. Nobody cuts and runs on Sheriff J.W. Pepper.
Nobody cuts and runs on Sheriff J.W. Pepper. Sheriff Pepper.